On Monday, a Senate motion to end debate on the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act failed by a vote of 41 to 51. It required 60 votes. 5 liberal lawmakers joined all Republicans who voted to reject the procedural step forward. In remarks on the Senate floor just before the vote, Senator Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Committee, accused Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of trying to jam the bill through the Senate without adequate consideration.
We're in this place right now because Senator Schumer won't prioritize national defense and fund our troops, because the majority leader mismanaged the Senate schedule. He won't allow votes on bipartisan amendments that make our country more secure.
Well, joining me now by phone to talk about the latest on this must-pass annual military spending bill is Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, an Army veteran and a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tony. It's good to be back on with you. Happy early Merry Christmas to you and all your listeners. Although it's never too early to say Merry Christmas, right?
Never too early, not around here, and you can always say Merry Christmas here. Senator, before I get into the NDAA, I want to ask your thoughts. I want you to put your lawyer hat on for a moment and give us your thoughts on the oral arguments today that were heard by the Supreme Court in the Dobbs case.
Well, Tony, first off, I have to disclaim your slander of me as having a lawyer hat. It's been 15 years since I practiced law, and I've been clean ever since, and I don't want to have a relapse.
So you're a recovering lawyer.
I'm a recovering lawyer. I was such a good lawyer, Tony. I had to leave the law practice and go be an infantryman. But I listened to the oral arguments, as so many did today, and I caveat everything I say with it's always hard to read the tea leaves from an oral argument when justices might often be playing devil's advocate. But what I heard today I found pretty reassuring. It did not sound like any of these justices are looking for an escape hatch to dismiss the Mississippi case on procedural grounds. I'd say at least 4, if not 5, of the justices were prepared to face squarely the wrong ruling that the court issued in 1973 in Roe v. Wade. They weren't looking for half measures to find some way to uphold the Mississippi law, but also uphold the Roe and Casey line of cases. I thought some of the questions that were extremely penetrating, and the pro-abortion side had no defense for them. Consider Justice Kavanaugh's questions about all of the precedents the court has overturned in its history, and why is it that Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey would be any different from those? I mean, just consider, Tony, from the modern era of the court. In 1986, in Bowers v. Hardwick, the court upheld a law that criminalized gay conduct. Just 17 years later, in Lawrence v. Texas, they overruled Bowers v. Hardwick. And another 12 years later, they said that the Constitution requires states to recognize gay marriage. So in the span of less than 3 decades, the court went from saying a state can criminalize gay sexual conduct to that states have to recognize gay marriage. If the court can do that on the gay rights cases, then surely it can also reverse wrongly decided cases like Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. It can't be the case that that stare decisis is a Latin phrase that means only liberal decisions can never be reversed.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. But it seemed like there was a realization, I was talking about this earlier, there seems to be a realization that this is going down. So Justice Sotomayor was trying to attach Roe v. Wade to those other cases that you made reference to, Lawrence and Obergefell, trying to somehow say, well, if this goes, those could go too. I think there's an understanding that the left is losing control over the courts, and they've built so much of their policy on judicial fiat rather than the foundation of common law, the natural law. It's just it's positive law. They just said it to be so, and so it has been so. But I don't want to spend all my time on that because I want to get to the NDAA. And yesterday, some liberal Democrats joined with Republicans to block the procedural vote going forward. What's happening with the National Defense Authorization Act?
Well, we refuse to end the debate on this bill, Tony, because Chuck Schumer hasn't allowed sufficient debate and amendments to occur in the first place. Look, the annual defense bill has passed every year for 60 years. It would be total incompetence for Chuck Schumer to have mismanaged this process so badly that he doesn't get it passed this year. Now, to be clear, I also voted against starting debate on this because I don't think this is a good bill that our troops deserve, and it doesn't deliver on what they deserve. However, it's just an example of what a poor floor leader Chuck Schumer has proved to be. I mean, we spent months voting on nominees you've never heard of for offices you didn't know existed when we could have been voting on the defense bill and having votes on all these amendments, like our amendment to strip out the provision that requires women to register for the draft and potentially face draft into combat arms roles, or our amendments to restore the commander's authority in the UCMJ, because I don't believe that our military justice system is systemically racist, as the Democrats would argue. To say nothing of other amendments that deal with core military functions, but Schumer hasn't allowed any of that, and that's why we're not finished with this bill yet.
So what's the set? Will we get to this before the end of the year, or are we looking into 2022?
I think we could start voting as early as tonight, Tony, maybe tomorrow on some of these amendments, and hopefully we will pass it before Christmas time.
Okay. Well, I'm grateful for you standing the ground to clean up this bill, because you're right. It's a bad bill with all of the stuff piled on that the left has put in there. Senator, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony.